Hey YouTube, I'm Kenneth Ryan.
I'm Linz.
And welcome back to another exciting episode of Fanfiction Friday. This is something I'm going to call the Fanfiction Friday Variety Hour.
To celebrate the new year.
To celebrate a new year and a new season of fanfictions. So yeah, we're going to read 3 different fanfictions.
They're pretty short.
That are relatively short, and they're all kind of wild. The theme for this Variety Hour is video game crossovers. So we are starting with a fic called 2 Heroes, 1 Case of Sexual Tension, No Bed. It's by PinkSakuraPetals, and it's Legolas/Link response to the crossover kink meme, Link's bottoming from the top, and it's sex in the wilderness.
Which is like, okay, fine.
I don't know, in terms of characters, whoever wants to be whoever.
You can be Link.
Alright, cool.
You're more Zelda, and I like Lord of the Rings.
Cool, alright. So, disclaimer, I don't own Lord of the Rings or Legend of Zelda, and then there's a line break, so you can
start this
ball.
Okay, I'm afraid that I'm going to pronounce words wrong when they're like Lord of the Rings cities and stuff.
Oh, yeah. That's
but whatever.
Okay.
Ignore that. Legolas never imagined that his idea of exploring the lands east of, I'm assuming, Rune, would bring him to such a strange place. Monsters that he had never dreamed of, even during the threat of the One Ring's Dark Master, roamed the land. Plants that looked harmless pounced on him if he ventured too close, razor-sharp teeth snapping out. Ugly, tentacled fish spat rocks at him from the rivers and lakes, while large, metal-armored spiders floated on the water's surface and leapt at him in an annoyingly persistent fashion.
Oh.
And at night, by Valar, and at night, at night. What? Is that supposed to be like a random...
I have no idea.
It's like I think by the gods, basically, but... Is it just an interjection, like...
Oh, you mean like, by Valar at night.
The dead rose from the earth, as if called by the moon.
I think that's
horrible, shrunken skeletons with glowing eye sockets chattered at him and swiped at his unprotected sides with long claws that they couldn't possibly have had when they were alive, if they were at all human. They certainly weren't elves. Sprinting away from the monstrous things on his horse usually led him right into startling a ghost. The ghost, while still as frightening as the skeletons to look upon, at least ran from him as he advanced. Legolas found himself breathing a sigh of relief every time the sun rose on this strange land.
Oh, Legolas is in Hyrule, confirmed.
It was a week into traveling about, a week too long in Legolas's opinion, that he finally met a being that didn't want to kill him at first sight. He was resting at the shore of a lake he cleared of those horrible spiders, his horse calmly grazing on the tender grass close to the water. He was in
what does that mean? Tender grass?
It's tender.
Like
soft.
Okay.
Possibly new.
Oh, okay. I was like, I don't really know what that means in reference to
It's not like
grass.
that gross grass. It's all like rough and
You mean like
sharp.
The brown crispy stuff?
That too. Oh, this is a long paragraph. Where was I?
He was in a half-doze.
He was in a half-doze, daydreaming about pestering Gimli, challenging Glorfindel to an archery competition and winning for once, and watching carefree hobbits tell each other stories and play games whose rules only made sense to the ones playing them. The sound of hooves pushing through thick grass reached his ears and was brushed off as a normal sound for one who was traveling on horseback. Why would you just like, oh, there's a horse? I'm just going to ignore it.
Right. Everything else has tried to kill me, but I'm sure this horse is fine.
Because I ride on horseback all the time, so it's a normal sound to me. So when I hear it randomly while laying on the ground, it's normal. It was when the whinny of a mare reached his ears, instead of the usual nickering that came from his stallion, that like, are the horses going to fuck you? That'd be hilarious. If you didn't do that, something Sakura blossoms.
I would be shook.
You missed a great opportunity. That Legolas realized he was no longer alone, and his eyes flew open. Not 5 feet from him. Wow, you're great at being aware of your surroundings. Not 5 feet from him stood a mare of average height, its coat a beautiful sable. On her back was a man who was very similar to himself in looks. He was tall and had bright blonde hair that was shortened short in the front, creating a fringe that framed his eyes. The rest of his hair was tucked underneath an unusual-looking green hat, made from the same material as the green tunic he was dressed in.
All right.
Underneath, a set of white leggings and a white undershirt covered his exposed limbs.
They're not really exposed if they're covered.
Legolas zeroed in on the leather gauntlets on the other's hands. They were well crafted. The metal shone brightly in the afternoon sun. They also suggested that the man was a warrior, and, sure enough, the elf spied the hilt of a sword peeking from behind his left shoulder. Legolas rose and nodded his head to the stranger. "Greetings, friend. Are you a traveler familiar with these lands?" The other blinked and tilted his head, an expression of confusion on his face.
"I don't understand you." He slid off of his horse, and Legolas noticed that he was at least a head shorter than himself.
They're not even going to know what they're saying, they're just going to start having sex.
"Have you come from far away?"
"Your words are unfamiliar to me, friend. My name is Legolas." The elf pointed to himself as he said this, and then gestured to the blonde in front of him. "Your name?" It took a few tries, and a few embarrassing gestures, but he was finally understood.
I will say something clever this fic is doing is Link's dialogue is italicized, and Legolas's is not, so it does give the feeling that they're talking in different languages.
Oh, yeah.
So, good on you, fic writer. "I'm Link."
"Link? That is your name?"
"That's right. I'm Link. You're Legolas, right?"
"Yes, Legolas. It is an honor to make your acquaintance, Link." Why are you saying all this when you know he can't understand you? But I know.
Funny.
"Are you familiar with these lands? What do you call this place?" Legolas made a sweeping gesture to the fields behind him. Link bit his lip, muttering something under his breath. His face brightened, and he nodded.
"This is Hyrule. We're at Hyrule Lake."
Wow, great naming.
Wow, yeah. There's technically a line break.
Technically, okay. Okay. The two blondes traveled together around Hyrule. It seemed that Link was on some sort of quest, and Legolas decided he was going to help the young Hyrulean. He could still remember the stress of journeying to destroy the cursed ring, and couldn't imagine trying to do it alone. Link had a small fairy to help him, and Legolas nearly killed the little thing the first time she came out from underneath Link's hat.
Is that where she lives?
Yeah, yes. But she was limited in what aid she could give. He gave Link a few pointers on wielding his sword, but the younger male surprised him on his skill with the bow. "You have a natural talent for the bow, Link."
"Thank you, Legolas. I have been practicing ever since I first picked up a slingshot. It was easy to put that into a bow. Your skill is much greater than mine, however. How long have you been using a bow?" So
they've been, changing the italics and non-italicized letters in those statements so they can say what they're saying in the other language, so it's kind of hard to see that over.
Yeah.
So he says thank you in Legolas's language.
And then he's like...
And then it's just a bow. The only thing Legolas understands from that is a bow.
Yeah. Yeah. Many of their conversations went similarly, each time new words being learned from the other's language. Soon, the two of them were able to have almost complete discussions without the need for pauses for translations and silly gestures. It takes quite a while to learn another language, but okay. Underneath the friendly comments and useful advice, though, there was a tenseness that Legolas didn't know what to do with. Link's every action was carefully controlled when he was near, so no unneeded movements were used. Legolas caught the younger male looking at him with a strange expression on his face out of the corner of his eye numerous times. Each time he turned, though, Link would be staring into the fire or watching the horses eat. It puzzled him.
"Link?" Legolas frowned when the Hyrulean jumped. Did he make Link uncomfortable? "Is there something wrong? You are very tense. Is the thought of fighting Ganondorf weighing heavily on your mind?" No, Legolas, I'm just horny as fuck.
Yeah, that's exactly where this is going. No, Legolas, I'm okay, Link trailed off, cheeks flushing as he met Legolas's eyes. "Do you remember when we were in Kakariko at the bar and that construction worker tried to drug my drink?"
What?
What?
"Yes, I do. The man's lucky I didn't do more than break his wrist."
"Thank you for that." Navi could have warned me about it if she had seen it, but there wouldn't have been anything she could do if I drank it. I'd be in a lot of trouble if you weren't there. Link trailed off again, and Legolas, thinking it was the end of that conversation, set about to bank the fire for the night. Why would you think it's the end of the conversation?
It's clearly a leading statement.
Because Legolas is dumb, I guess. Set about to bank the fire for the night when a calloused hand closed on his wrist. He looked up sharply to see Link was right next to him now, blush much darker, and he was licking his lips nervously. Ugh. I don't like licking your lips is a gross thing to me.
Really?
I'm just like, don't. Stop it. Maybe
Why?
because I'm so used to, like... I think Rick licked his lips a lot.
Like in The Walking Dead? Or?
No, in the Star Wars fic. And Rick was one of those characters that I was like, I think it's just rubbing off on me. Mm-hmm. Clear blue eyes met his, and Legolas was frozen as Link closed the distance between them and their lips met. The kiss was soft, hardly even there, but a jolt coursed through the elf, keeping him from pulling away. The tenseness between them was sexual, not born of a misunderstanding.
Ooh.
When Legolas didn't respond, Link made to pull away, apologies half-formed on his lips, but the older male pulled him back, and their lips met harshly, teeth nipping on soft lips and tongues dueling.
They're missing a C, so tunics.
Tunies were pulled off quickly, wrong seams. Ripping from the rough treatment, and leggings were rendered unusable as they were dragged down muscled legs.
So they're just like tearing their clothes off each other. What are they going to wear after this?
The fools.
Yeah.
What about the fairy? She's still around.
She's in his hat. She can't see anything.
The two rolled about the clearing, each unwilling to give up the top position. Legolas, however, had grown up around other boys and learned how to pin his opponent beneath him in a way that kept them from getting loose.
So he's riding him.
He held Link's hands in a tight grip above his head as they panted, warm breath mingling between them. Preparing the younger male went slowly with only saliva to work with, but Legolas was... Let me try that again. But Legolas was patient.
In this summary, it did say that Link was bottoming from the top.
I guess not. Well, that might switch real quick.
So that means that Legolas is going to be on...
Right.
The one riding him, basically, but usually I hear bottoming from, I guess, topping from the bottom more often than bottoming from the top. I don't know. Anyways, random thought.
Link's whimpers and cries as he was stretched were music to the elves' ears. He pushed his fingers deep and brushed up against a spot that made Link writhe and arc. Mm-hmm. Arch,
yes.
He brushed it again, firmly, and pinned the other down with his body as Link nearly wiggled out of his hold. 3 fingers and a litany of moans later... It's like a SpongeBob title card. 3 fingers later...
Oh, God.
Legolas lined his erection up with Link's stretched and winking hold and pushed in slowly.
That was...
Both moaned. Link because the teasing was finally over, and Legolas because Link was so hot and tight. The thought that he was Link's first...
How do you know?
...in this way made his hips jerk, and Link yelped as he was fully seated inside him. The two stayed that way for a minute, catching their breath and staring at each other. Legolas flexed his hips experimentally and was rewarded with Link's intake of breath. The usually clear blue eyes were clouded with hunger and a little bit of mischief. Link grinned at him and twisted his hips, moaning as Legolas was pulled free, and settled on top of him as their positions were switched. Legolas gripped Link about the waist to keep him from getting up, but Link grabbed his cock instead and guided it back into him. That was a paragraph.
Yeah, it was.
Link's eyes fluttered shut as he drew Legolas into the hilt, rotated his hips to get him in a little bit more, and then opened his eyes to lock them with Legolas once more. Fuck me, Legolas. Legolas pistoned his hips up, bounced Link on his cock, and he leaned down and their mouths met in a hot, wet mashing of lips. Mm-hmm. Legolas wrapped one hand around Link's neglected cock loosely, forming a tunnel for Link to hump into. Link's breathing started to hitch and Legolas wasn't faring much better. So close to the edge, his vision was going dark. Link threw his head back and screamed as his went over the edge first, spurting over Legolas's stomach. His voice echoed across the abandoned Hyrule field. Legolas followed closely behind him as his own cock was milked by pulsing muscles.
Porn descriptions, yay.
They came down slowly, each exhausted. Legolas rolled them
stamina,
over
God.
onto their sides, and, without removing himself from Link's body, they fell into a seated sleep.
Satiated
sleep to the sounds of crickets and whickering horses.
The horses did not have sex. That was sad.
The horses did not have sex. So that was like 2/3 build up.
Link bottoming from the top. Yeah, okay.
Which he did. It's just...
That was interesting.
It was 2/3 build up, 1/3 very quick sex.
Yeah.
It's like, well, there it was.
Yeah. Ooh, ow, my knee. Anyways.
Right. So
that
was the first one. The second fic we have
is the shortest of the three.
In Fanfiction Friday Variety Hour number 1 is a Mario and Zootopia crossover.
Not sure why it's Zootopia.
Titled Mario and Biden by Biggus Dickus II. Mario loves Joe Biden. What next? So, who do you want to be?
I'll be Biden.
Okay,
so you can read the first half, I'll read the second half, I guess.
Mario was in Joe Biden's office. Joe a daddy, he said.
I don't know what Joe Biden sounds like. I fuck, Biden replied with 2 C's. Then it says fuck, 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 fuck. That's the end of the fic.
And that was Mario and Biden by Biggus Dickus II.
There are 3 reviews, and I'm curious as to what they say. Smiley face, and I hope this is the last artifact of humanity.
Oh my god, that's amazing. All right.
2 of those reviews are by Biggus Dickus II. So that's the author.
All right, so the next one.
So they're just responding to the first review, I guess.
Yes.
Fun.
So the final fic of Fanfiction Friday Variety Hour is a Legend of Zelda and Mario crossover called Deadly Selflessness by Guardian of the Flames.
This one's a bit more serious.
Princess Peach and Princess Zelda are the possibly most admired rulers in their kingdoms. Many consider them the best monarchs in history. Why? Well, it's because they are wise, compassionate, kind, and selfless rulers. However, when a problem emerges, will they murder few to save many?
The author's note in the beginning is, hey guys, where'd you go?
Oh.
I've got an darker story for you to read, so read on. Warning, rated M for mature for a graphic violence sequence. So there's just one.
There's at least one graphically violent sequence.
Do you want to be Zelda or...
I can be either. I don't care.
I don't care either.
Fabulous. Well, we'll figure it out one way.
Great. You want to read or should I?
Sure, I can. Let's do it. Today was the day that one of them was going to meet their end. For some time, the Mushroom Kingdom had been at odds with Hyrule. Quite simply, they were tired of always needing the Hylians to fight their battles when they knew they could do it on their own if they would just trade their weapons. The Mushroom Kingdom was so afraid, should Hyrule want to invade, they could do little to stop them. However, the Hylians brushed this off, saying that the kingdoms were friends and they knew Hyrule wouldn't betray them. When Princess Peach got kidnapped yet again, that was the last straw. The Mushroom Kingdom said they could not protect the princess from either kingdom. Hyrule claimed they could, so the defenseless kingdom decided to act. They cut off all food exports to Hyrule. This was especially devastating because Hyrule had greatly relied on the Greener Kingdom to supply them with food. While some of them did indeed have ranches and farms, it was not enough to supply a population of that size. Some of them, especially those who lived near the plaza... Where's the fucking plaza? where there was not a blade of grass in sight, were beginning to slowly starve to death. People grew desperate. If one side didn't give in soon, there was going to be a war. So both monarchs and kingdoms decided to act. From the kingdoms. Thank you. On the border where the kingdoms met, they announced their plan.
What the fuck?
This is a wild setup.
This is a terrible plan.
These are the best rulers in history.
This next sentence is their plan, and it's It's terrible. Why? It's stupid.
They would fight to the death to settle the affair. If Peach won, the Mushroom Kingdom would receive weaponry, food would be exported, and they would all return to normal. If Zelda won, the Hylians would get to keep their weapons, and the Mushroom Kingdom forced to export food again. That way, it could be done and over with, and only one person would have to lose their life, and that guaranteed, and innocent civilians would not die to the other's hostility.
Just give them fucking weapons. Who cares?
The people went ballistic, shouting and calling for change. But what could they do? They certainly couldn't defy their rulers, no matter how good they were. The next day was when it finally took place. Why are the people upset? Only one person's going to die, and that ends everything.
Yeah.
Like, that's good for you.
But it's their princess.
Oh, whatever.
They care about her or something, I don't know.
They were going to fight on a wooden bridge high above most of the land.
Why?
The area designers from both kingdoms did this to symbolize that not even the most high and righteous of the people among the world would refuse to kill for something they needed desperately.
That's stupid, but okay.
Not even Princess Peach or Princess Zelda. 60 seconds. That's how long the princesses had to wait before they were released, before they could let out their contained rage, and not a second sooner.
This is stupid, too.
If a fighter had stepped off before then, they'd be blown to bits.
This is not the Hunger Games.
This is the silliest. You see, this is like an old man telling a rambling story. Hold on, I should adopt a fucking voice for the narration. You see, there are mines placed directly in front of the warrior to ensure a fighter wouldn't cheat. They covered a good 4 yards, so one could not expect to be able to leap over them and survive. The mines are set off by pressure, and it doesn't have to be a lot. Once during a previous battle, a contestant had accidentally dropped a knife as a weapon, and they literally had to scrape pieces of them off the ground.
How often does this happen that they keep using this stupid bridge?
I guess a lot. How are these the best rulers in history?
If they have these fights more than just now.
Oh my god.
So this bridge existed before this fight. So then
right.
Even the highest, that makes no sense.
Do like their fathers do this too or some shit?
Who knows?
Everyone had tied the weapons to their body somehow after that. To add to the already tense pressure the royalties felt, the countdown was starting. An announcer was saying the numbers for everyone watching outside the arena to hear, but the fighters only heard steady beats as the clock ticked away. Now that it had started, Peach and Zelda were staring each other down from the 10-yard distance, give or take. Being a master of wisdom, Zelda could fake a calm demeanor and start thinking cold, calculating thoughts. She was a better fighter than Peach. If they were in hand-to-hand combat, she was sure her physical and magical strength could easily overpower the Pink Princess and win the match. But there was a problem, and that problem was Peach was unpredictable. Is there going to be any dialogue? Is this all just description? Good lord.
There's an down there.
Alright, good. Well, Zelda was wise. She could sense Peach was equally, if not more, cunning in the art of combat.
And that's going to be Peach, so I guess I'll be Peach.
Then there was the issue of weaponry. Okay. Zelda was fairly confident her bow and arrows were more deadly than anything Peach had in her arsenal, but that was the thing. Peach had a variety of weapons at her display. Zelda had only seen Peach use a weapon once, turnips. But those turnips proved that Peach could have anything at her disposal and make it appear deceptively useless. Zelda had made up her mind. She'd charge and go for the attack. While Peach may have quirky weapons, they would most likely be just that, quirky weapons. Weapons that could do little to Zelda's deadly aim. Meanwhile, Peach was also planning her strategy. She felt uneasy. Zelda was surely stronger and would not be above incinerating her to ash if her magical prowess was that strong the second the minute was up. Still, she seemed fairly unlikely. That seemed fairly unlikely, since Zelda often got as tangled into trouble as she did. Would Ganondorf be alive if Zelda could kill him in a second? No. Reassuring herself allowed Peach to think that neutrality instead.
Think more neutrally.
More neutrally, instead of pessimistically. Listen, reading is hard. Still, Peach had a few tricks up her sleeve. Her bubbly cheerfulness and slender frame masked the deadly killer that she had just discovered laid inside. She was smart. Zelda was smart too, to be sure. But Peach felt she would exceed her slightly. This is so much exposition that I am no longer interested in. This is dull.
Yeah.
And besides, Peach had a variety of accessories that would aid her in battle.
Of accessories.
Right.
Pause.
Zelda, in her brown boots, would also be slightly slower than Peach, whose heels were actually only 2 inches high, and that's when it clicked. Peach would rush in and attack, and Zelda's superior magic and strength would be useless when her attacks never connected. And it was a good thing both princesses made up their mind. There was only 10 seconds left on the clock. Now they only had time to make sure they were prepared for the bloodshed that was sure to follow. Peach dusted her dress and clicked her heels on her metal plate. She made sure her weapons were ready and out of sight. The other lady reached to her back, making sure her quiver was firmly strapped there and full of light arrows, which it was. She summoned her magic in a small orb so that she was sure it was still there, and finally readjusted her gloves so that they would not fall off. Because I guess that's important. Mm-hmm. You can't fight crime if you ain't cute. Zelda kneeled forward, trying to intimidate the other princess, who reeled back, faking that she was going to play afraid and on the defensive side. Then, the steady beats of the clock stopped. It was time to begin the end of one of royalties. Mm-hmm. One would not be returning to govern their kingdom. Both princesses dashed right in front of their plates, and Peach immediately yanked 2 turnips in both hands and threw them at her enemy. Since they were slow enough for Zelda to think, she was able to deflect them with the power of Naru, the goddess of wisdom, and fling them back at Peach.
Ah! She yelled. This was her chance, her critical moment, to deceive Zelda into thinking she was a poor, helpless girl with no chance of winning. Immediately, the pink princess started weeping fountains of tears and dashed toward her opponent. Well, okay, then. Zelda was trying to walk back, but ended up getting caught in the puddle of water, forced to focus on solely keeping her balance. Peach used this chance to fly back and slam back into Zelda, flinging the princess back and skidding on the bridge. Zelda could not afford to be left vulnerable for a time, or that would be her end. She bounced back into the air and twirled and disappeared into a brilliant green flash. Before Peach could whip around and retaliate, Zelda jumped and sent Peach reeling with a kick. The ball of energy from her foot had landed on the sweet spot, so Peach suffered a harsh blow.
Is this the mature graphic violence? Is this it?
It'll
because
get better.
This isn't very graphic right now.
It'll possibly get better. Hopefully. Zelda did not wait for Peach to recover, thrusting balls of fire from her fingertips at the princess. 2 of them were able to connect to the target in mid-air, and Zelda used Farore's wind to twirl right next to Peach. The twirls allowed Zelda to smoothly get in a few roundhouse kicks and, with a backflip kick, successfully sent the blonde right next crashing into the bridge. Okay. But that's not what Zelda wanted. She teleported safely under the bridge and sent her opponent flying with a powerful burst of electric magic from her palm. Shockingly, Peach landed on her feet, and Zelda did not regain her strength in time to prevent Peach from healing herself through magic.
Oh.
Nor could she stop Peach from making a sheep appear and throw it at the Hylian.
Oh?
This is such a video game fight.
Okay.
Fortunately for her, she was able to again use Naru's love to send it back to Peach. Little did she know that's exactly what the trickster was counting on. She pulled out her parasol and whacked the sheep high into the sky with it. Zelda, infuriated she was being taunted, used her power to fool Peach again. Sadly, she was not strong enough and landed right in front of Peach's line of sight. So she did what she could with the time she didn't have. She smacked her. Peach, delighted she fooled her, retaliated with a swift slap to the face of her own. There was a pause of disbelief that both princesses could disrespect one another in such a manner, but it didn't last.
You guys are literally throwing turnips and shit at each other, like...
Soon, all one would be able to make out were sounds of slapping and a flurry of smacks, hearts, and bursts of light. Finally, Peach was bored with this little game that wasn't making her any progress. She pulled out a frying pan and whacked the brunette sky high. Zelda landed with a thud.
Video game.
This, however, gave her an opportunity Peach had cleverly prevented. Distance. She, without hesitation, pulled out a light arrow and pulled back on the quiver. Peach, on the other hand, was not as happy. In rage, she stomped toward Zelda, engulfed in tongues of fire. Zelda released her grip on the arrow and watched as it flew and landed on Peach's stomach, shattering her fire barricade. It was a critical hit.
Oh, I guess that's how they get away with her not being impaled by an arrow.
Peach recoiled in pain, and the bridge shattered beneath them. Luckily, Peach pulled out her parasol and floated. Zelda suddenly re-emerged in a flicker of green light and launched several fireballs at her opposition. She was expecting it, however. She rolled, floated, flipped, and dodged every fireball Zelda threw at her, even when teleporting. Finally, Peach got irritated and tried to use the frying pan and fling the projectile back at its releaser, but it instead hit her. Zelda used this chance. She teleported right in front of Peach, but it was too late. Peach was too fast for her. She delivered 3 slaps and 2 whacks with her umbrella, sending Zelda flying. As she finally landed on the ground, Peach healed herself. Zelda reappeared, and both could sense the other had been rejuvenated to an unknown degree. They stared into each other's eyes, trying to predict the next move, but only for a second. When's this sheep coming back?
Right.
Zelda released 3 fireballs after that, countered by 3 turnips from Peach. This caused an outright frenzy, and each player frantically threw projectiles at one another. Meanwhile, something was descending on them. Fast.
Oh, it's the sheep.
Before Zelda knew it, the sheep Peach whacked hit her head, rendering her unconscious. Peach knew it would only last for a couple seconds. She needed to act now. Without hesitation, she flew back and sprouted angel wings. Wings she acquired previously only when she was going to kick a ball in soccer, and split it into 3. She charged forward. Is there a Mario soccer game I'm missing?
Oh, yeah, but she doesn't split the ball into... What? Okay, whatever.
Is that what splits into 3, or was it her wings that she split into 3?
I don't know.
Did she have 6 wings? I don't know.
I don't know.
She charged forward, not wanting the other princess to suffer. Just because she won doesn't mean she didn't feel remorse. Then it happened. She threw her leg back, then snapped it forward as she kicked Zelda, splitting her into tiny pieces.
Oh my god.
She didn't turn around until her wings stopped flying forward, and she descended onto the ground. So she wins. Yay. Maybe.
Peach wins.
Maybe not, I don't know. That was it. No, there was more. The once beautiful face of Princess Zelda was gone, mutilated until she was unrecognizable, and the blood flow. Even though she died the instant Peach's heel made contact, her corpse still spewed out blood. This is the
graphic violence, I guess.
From a distance, one would assume the grass was reddish, due to not being given water properly. Peach knew all too well that was not the case. What was wrong with her? She shouldn't be depressed. She should be happy, even. She won the match. She came out alive. Now she was returning home to her friends and family, and the affair with Hyrule had been settled. But she felt no sense of triumph. All she felt was the responsibility of killing a once beautiful young woman, tearing her into pieces. And now that was the end.
Zelda didn't get a single line.
The people... I only had... I mean, there's some dialogue in a minute. The people of Hyrule would know endless grief because of her. Now they'd never see their princess again. I mean, they just have to give up weapons.
Yeah,
they still get their food.
It's like you get fed.
You still get your food. You just don't have your princess.
Oh man, sucks.
Or weapons. So then the Mushroom Kingdom can defend themselves. Not even against you. It's just defend themselves in general. Hyrule's like, no, we can protect you. It's like, no, we want to be able to protect ourselves.
Yeah, this whole thing was stupid.
Yeah, just give them the weapons. Trade them for the food. Whatever. I never have her words of wisdom, her selflessness, her kindness, her compassion, all now just a memory. Peach let a lone tear slide down her cheek. She only had a little time to grieve before she would be collected by guards back to the Mushroom Kingdom. They arrived just then. Peach stole one last glance at Zelda. "Goodbye, my sister," she murmured. No, she needed to do more, just one last thing. She plucked for hours, but it finally happened. She grabbed the white roses and plucked them over the ugly wound where the blood spewed out still. The petals turned blood red in a minute. Peach was hysterical. So she's just
where is this going? The whole setup is over now.
No matter what the guards did, she would not leave Zelda. It was nightfall now, and Peach must have been famished. They tried to drag Peach away, but she attacked them with murderous rage. What was their problem? Couldn't they see those they served caused this terrible, terrible act? attack. Finally,
what?
One guard was able to insert a syringe in Peach, who struggled faintly even then. No, have to stay with her. She squirmed.
Is there, like, lover undertones here? Oh, where is this going?
I have no idea. She squirmed as much as she could, but she eventually became unconscious. Peach didn't know how she came home that night. When she woke, her best friend was there, Toadette. Scanning quickly, Peach realized she was now in her bed, and only the two of them were in there.
Well, Toadette seems like an obvious voice choice, but
I don't think she has any. No. Someone has dialogue here, but it's okay. Hey.
No, this is Toadette didn't know what else to say.
Oh, it's you.
Hey, she said. Toadette didn't know what else to say, so she said something non-verbally. She pulled out a tray with blue waffles with milk.
Blue waffles? Okay.
Oh, you sweet summer child.
Yeah, okay.
Blue waffles with milk. Peach's favorite. Peach let out a small smile. She thought making blue waffles was Toadette's way of saying anything was possible. Peach can be a capable fighter. Waffles can be blue. That seems like
a Percy Jackson reference.
Little miracles right like that. Once Toadette and Toadsworth had a fight. Why does any of this matter?
I don't know.
Had a fight that Peach thought was really small at the time. Toadsworth had said no food was blue, and Toadette disagreed. Ever since then, Toadette had gone out of her way to eat blue, quote-unquote. She bought blue tortilla chips, made blue birthday cakes.
This is literally a Percy Jackson
kept
reference.
Kept the blue slime on fish.
Not that part.
So whenever Toadette brought her something to eat, Peach had to smile. Toadette was like her in some ways. She did have a rebellious and mischievous streak, like Peach. Peach wolfed down the waffles hungrily. Now she truly appreciated the phrase comfort food because it was a wonderful home remedy to make all her problems disappear, at least for a moment. As she ate, however, the blue reminded Peach of crystals, and the crystals reminded her of... She shoved the food away from her. She couldn't eat that. Memory eating her away either. However, the more she tried to thrust it out of her mind, the more it teased her, dancing on the back of her mind and littering it with images. Finally, Peach couldn't take it anymore. Does this not seem so convoluted and like, what the fuck are you talking about?
A bit, yeah.
She only gave Toadette enough time to set the tray aside before flinging herself into her arms. There, everything's going to be all right, Toadette said, soothingly rubbing the princess's back. Peach responded only by banging her fists against her mattress and sobbing louder. Now you can confide in me, Peach. I'm your friend, and I promise I won't tell Toadsworth. So it happened then. This cruel world Toadette was in had forced her to mature too fast, at least for the princess's taste. What?
Oh, she's so innocent, but now she knows the dark side of...
Now she was basically a psychologist who knew that Toadsworth could not be told dark stories.
Why?
What?
I'm a murderer! Peach cried.
No, you are not! The child told her firmly. Toadette is your best friend.
Then she's a child?
What the fuck? Listen, could you guys have handled it any better? No.
Yes! Yes, you could have!
You saved the maximum number of lives possible.
That's possibly true if they had gone to war.
And even when the battlefield numbers were decreased to 2, you both took the slots. And you came out victorious, Peach. I doubt there was a better way you could have handled it, she said reasonably.
Make a fucking treaty or something. Have talks.
Right?
Debates.
Non-violent solutions. Peach replied,
That doesn't change the fact I still killed her. Toadette could barely make out the words as she was still sobbing into her vest. That doesn't change the fact that I still killed her!
I know, but you can't beat yourself up, girl. Both of you were as selfless as you could be, And look at the circumstances you were trapped in. I don't think you could have made it any better given how horrible it was, guaranteed to be no matter what. Peach smiled. Toadette always knew what to say, and strangely enough, Peach found peace in Toadette's optimistic, sugar-coated logic. But Peach didn't mind. Frankly, feeling as despicable as she felt, she could use a little sugar-coating. Now Peach just nodded and thanked Toadette for comforting her. Toadette simply just nodded and said it was her pleasure. After a pause, Toadette noticed Peach was asleep. She quietly slid off Peach's bed and kissed her cheek. Then she tiptoed towards the door, and after shutting it, Peach smiled, knowing Toadette thought she fell asleep, but now she was already slipping into unconsciousness. Her dreams of that night were not of the essence she learned.
The essence she learned. That there's an animal, a killer in everyone. But the irrepressible joy Toadette's aura could bring to anyone around her. And okay then.
So that was rough.
That was interesting. It was such a weird video game fight, and it's like, oh, the blood is splurting from her face.
And now she has this. It was kind of surreal, where it just all of a sudden she like was dealing with like the very real guilt of killing someone in this wacky cartoon world.
Yeah,
it was jarring
a bit. Yeah, so that might be it's actually kind of a good way of telling the story, possibly.
Yeah.
From the authors.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how to word this. It's clever.
It's clever. It
to was, like juxtapose the two things.
It didn't stop me from being confused
I don't know
as
if they
to
did
why
that
it
on
was
purpose.
all happening.
Yeah, I don't know if they did that on purpose, honestly. Because I don't know this author, obviously.
I was so confused. I was like, what the fuck?
What's going on? Why are they fighting to death on a bridge instead of just being like, hey, let's make a compromise?
All right, so here's what we can do. Here's an idea. All right, yes. So we read 3 fan fictions.
Yes.
Which one would you say was the best one?
The first one. Fucking Lincoln, Legolas having sex in a field for some reason.
I will also say the
Random
first one because it was the most coherent.
I mean, obviously the second one is just like
the second one was just like 19 words of hilarity, and then I was just like, this is fun, let's throw it in there. But the first one, I at least like understood it. The second, like the second real one, which was this Peach Zelda one, the whole time I was like, why is this happening? What is going on? None of this matters.
Yeah.
Well, anyway. Thank you all for tuning in to the first ever Fanfiction Friday Variety Hour. If you like things like this, leave it in the comments down below, and maybe we'll bring it back. Who knows?
Recommend some crack fics.
Yeah, we like to read fics. Send us some. But do the YouTube things, like, comment, and subscribe, and, click the bell and all that. And,
you know what to do.
Yeah. Until next time, stay awesome, read more smut. Bye.
Bye.